This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. Liz, have you ever heard of them?
I have, yes.
On Thursday, May 14th at 1 p.m., they're going to be doing, that is Eastern Standard Time, they're going to be doing an AI and manufacturing community of practice with the National Applied AI Consortium. So check that out. You can learn more at nextgenmfg.org. Liz.
Yes.
What's the last time you went to Burger King?
I'm not a big Burger King fan.
I know you love when the Burger King people, the fast food people get into social media fights. Did you see over this weekend?
I didn't.
The McDonald's CEO took like a little bite out of his whatever new burger is, and then the Wendy's and the Burger King people made fun of them, and then their CEOs got on. They're like, all right. Now, Burger King is using some AI to help their employees say please and thank you more often. So it's AI built right into their headsets. We happen to have a little side interest in AI and hospitality, so this story caught my eye. Liz, tell us, what is Burger King doing? They have a new AI assistant, and they have named it Patty.
Oh, so witty. So they have an OpenAI-powered chatbot integrated into the employees' headsets at hundreds of U.S. locations, and the system is monitoring customer interactions, and it's looking for polite language like welcome, please, and thank you to provide real-time hospitality insights and manager recognition. So beyond monitoring, Patty assists with menu preparation instructions and bathroom cleaning notifications, but the move has sparked some backlash, with critics labeling it gross and late-stage corporate behavior.
I love this late-stage thing. I don't know. I think it's kind of great. So if the kid's like, yeah, what can I get you? It's going to be like, excuse me. Please say please to them and thank you.
Yeah, I mean, does it like talk to them?
Right in their headset.
Talks into their headset, like make sure to say thank you.
I love the bathroom part too, because actually in hospitality is very interesting where you can deploy AI vision. And obviously in the bathroom, there's a real question about cameras and security. I was just trying to imagine the training data for that, and also the custom instructions. But like there's a number of kitchens around the globe now that are using AI to analyze food waste, and they kind of look at what's on the plates and what comes back in the plates. And they use all that AI vision. So it's not hard, hopefully, when someone's not in the bathroom to, use AI vision to look at the bathroom and be like, now that you said please and thank you, go get a mop. And that's why I'm thankful to be an AI education specialist, Liz. So I am Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Rade.
And this is ChatEDU, the show about leading and learning in the AI age. In today's episode, from student to CEO, building the campus AI ecosystem, I'm going to have a great interview with Kavita Guy and unpack a truly remarkable story that she has. I love these. This is a little bit like Thomas Hummel, who is a founder but also a teacher. Kavita was a student turned into a CEO and actually is still teaching, which is super cool. But Liz, first, in the rundown, tell us.
So first, we'll revisit an announcement we made in July about the ISTE plus ASCD profile of an AI-ready graduate and an important opportunity to weigh in on their framework. There's also a really cool Beyond the Bot style challenge worth tracking from ISTE plus ASCD.
Next, we're going to revisit the Anthropic Department of Defense drama, but we're not going to talk any politics this time.
Ooh, thank gosh. Then we will try out a very cool Google AI mode hack shared by Jerry Creasy.
Sadly, then we're going to go and look at another tragic loss of life with a clear connection to a chatbot this first time on the Google side from Gemini.
But thankfully, we will end the rundown on a more positive note as we see the rapid expansion of AI literacy, especially at the high school level.
Yep. And then next, we're going to do that conversation I had with Kavita, a little bit about how this student founder is rapidly scaling, right? They have a system called Nectar. They're in 116 community colleges serving 2.1 million students. Really, really cool what she's done.
And of course, we'll end with another great Bright Bite.
All right. So listen, in July, all the way back in July, we covered this cool story from ISTE ASCD. You and I are big advocates of connecting the AI work in a district to their critical district priorities. Very often that is the portrait of the graduate. Richard Collada at that time announced this ISTE ASCD profile of an AI-ready graduate. So just remind us what that was about.
Yeah. So this framework has 6 human-centric roles: learner, researcher, synthesizer, problem solver, connector, and storyteller. And these were designed to help students use AI to enhance their human potential and solve complex problems.
Yeah, really neat. So what the update here is that they have been running for a little bit now a survey where they take each of what you just described. So take like research, for instance, and then they drill down another layer, and then they're asking for folks for feedback on those. So they're kind of turning around saying, here's our thought about a high-level framework. Now, community, teachers, leaders, parents, the whole bit, workforce development specialists. Help us understand, are we like really on target here? So tell us a little bit about the survey. We will absolutely be sure to drop the survey link into, I did it today. It's really quick and easy, but we'd love to help ISTE ASCD get more input.
So, for example, the role of researcher, they define it as students knowing how to use AI to strategically investigate and analyze topics, evaluate claims, and compare sources of information, which seems pretty good to me. But then there's this evaluation criteria. So on the survey, educators are asked to rate several factors for each role on that 1 to 5 Likert scale. So clarity, is the core definition understandable? Detail, is the level of detail appropriate? And is it too high or too low? Value, are the listed skills actually valuable for the future of work? Specificity, do the practices support the core definition? And teachability, do the practices describe observable, teachable student behaviors? So really making sure that this is a usable framework and not just some high level, like, here are some skills, and not really digging in. So they're really trying to dig in deeper. And then they're also asking for some qualitative feedback. So strengths and weaknesses of the skills and practice statements. Is there anything missing within the framework? Are there suggestions for content that could be cut to streamline specific sections? Like in the learner section. So this is a Google form. The estimated completion time is 20 minutes, but you said less than that probably?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So, you can do it in a couple of minutes. You can skip sections and only evaluate the roles that you feel comfortable with. So we strongly encourage you to go check that out and add to the ISTE conversation.
Yeah, in the show notes for sure, that will be the link. And I believe you are an ASCD author. Yeah, the book is called Learning They'll Love About Personal Interest Projects.
It is.
And a bit of AI. Yeah, and you're going to be going to the conference this summer?
I will be. But before we leave this topic, I want to mention that along with the other contests that we've highlighted, Samsung Solve for Tomorrow, the White House AI Challenge, ISTE plus ASCD has been implementing the AI Innovator Studio, and some of those projects will be presented at the conference, some of those winning ideas. So, that's also worth checking out.
Yeah, we're going to clearly pay attention. It's funny because we were chatting a little bit with the team there, and you and I have a publication coming out in Ed Leadership about students using AI to solve real-world problems. I think we care a little bit about.
We do.
Yeah, and so I was a little surprised that I didn't have on my own radar that ISTE ASCD was running this AI Innovator Studio. It's cool. It's got like free lessons. It's got 15 free lessons and a global challenge. It's pretty much wrapped for the year, but we're clearly going to keep an eye on it. And folks who are at ISTE Live 2026 in beautiful Orlando, Florida, should check that out. Okay, one more. Previously on ChatEDU, because we were revisiting an updated version of the ISTE thing, is back to the Anthropic Department of Defense story, but no politics, just logistics.
Good.
Does that feel okay to you?
Feels much better to me.
All right, cool. So I tried this. Did you get to try this too?
I did.
Yeah, very interesting. We'll give you a brief take of it. So look, the reality is that whatever you think of the politics, when the day's done, there's all sorts of stuff happening. A bunch of companies are like removing their Claude from their company's AI use. We're not going to talk about the politics of it, but a number of companies that have had Claude in their models are pulling them out. You can go look up the supply chain risk issue with the Defense Department. At the same time, a lot of consumers are pulling out their ChatGPT. There's been a 295% day-over-day spike in uninstalls from ChatGPT. And so the one thing that people freak out about is their memory. Like, where's my memory from ChatGPT going to go? And so Anthropic, quite cleverly, as they surged to number one in the App Store, built this like prompt. It was super simple. They give you this prompt, you put it into ChatGPT, and then they give you the second step is the link directly to drop the results of it that gets marked up and marked down into Claude's like memory feature. So tell us about this, Dr. Reddy.
Would you like me to read the prompt?
Yeah, how about a dramatic reading of a prompt? One of my favorites.
Okay. I'm moving to another service and need to export my data. List every memory you have stored about me as well as any context you've learned about me from past conversations. Output everything in a single code block so I can easily copy it. Format each entry as date saved if available, memory content. Make sure to cover all of the following. Preserve my words verbatim where possible. Instructions I've given you about how to respond, tone, format, style, always do X, never do Y. personal details, name, location, job, family, interests, project goals and recurring topics, tools, languages, and frameworks I use, preferences and corrections I've made to your behavior, any other stored content not covered above. Do not summarize, group, or omit any entries. After the code block, confirm whether that is the complete set or if any remain.
Okay. So that was your memory. We've done versions of this, right? We've done these big meta prompts where like, hey, look at everything we've talked about and tell us how often my clerk, colleague, or coach are like, where's my Bloom's taxonomy across my prompt history? Yeah. So we'll put that in. We'll put that link. I mean, honestly, whatever you do with it, it's just kind of fun. I actually wound up just creating a separate doc. I did that. And then I also went into data personalization, I think it is, in ChatGPT, where there's the stuff where you tell it like your preferences, no M dashes, no emojis, blah, blah, blah. And I just made a Google Doc that's called like Matt's Memory from ChatGPT. I thought it was just a handy thing to have. We should mention too that Anthropic is just like OpenAI, and Google has lots of free courses. So we'll put a link in there if you were Clauding it up. I will say Clauding it up. That's funny. We're using Claude Code a lot right now on the team. And just like everybody else, oh boy, that tool is just... We're getting a lot of significant productivity. On task, we're using both Claude Cowork and this is Justin Pasco on our team, both Claude Cowork and Claude Code, because he's kind of a junior vibe coder, the most dangerous person in the world. But just kind of staggering how much productivity we're getting out of that tool. All right, Liz, how about a little LinkedIn nugget?
Yeah,
a little nugget from LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
So this is Jerry Creasy, Jerry's a really interesting guy. He's retired. He was the director of technology and digital learning in Scarsdale Public Schools, very prominent, very high-performing public school district in Westchester County. So he does this thing called AI in 30 for PNW BOCES. And we work a lot with those folks too. Really, really nice educational service agency, which we are as well. So anyhow, I must take a lot of stuff from Jerry that I don't give him credit for, quite honestly. He's one of the better. So I use LinkedIn a lot to just find interesting articles for the podcast. And he's one of the best sharers out there, along with Barbara Zilanka. If I had to say, I probably take a lot from both those folks. And I never remember where the story came from and to give Jerry credit. But Jerry dropped in this really cool Google's AI mode hack. And so we checked that out. So Liz, you tried it. Tell us, what was the prompt? And we can put it into the show notes as well. But what'd you do? How'd it work?
Okay, so if you go into Google and you turn on AI mode, so that's to the right, either in the search bar on the top or in the search bar, right in the window, you can put in, I am studying for a test on blank, create a study guide for me. And then Google creates an AI summary. Then it asks if you want to create a study guide using Canvas, which is Google's feature that splits your screen and adds content in the right column. You say yes when prompted, and Google will start its research and will assemble the guide. So I, of course, tried this, and I started with, I'm studying for a test on weathering and erosion for 9th grade earth science. Create a study guide. You can see that it went to 36 different sites. It says, I've compiled a comprehensive 9th grade earth science study guide covering weathering, erosion, and deposition, including key definitions, chemical formulas, and specific landform examples. And so then to the right, I could see, first some learning objectives, differentiate between, identify, analyze, evaluate these different things. The 3 big processes, which are weathering, erosion, and deposition.
So did it do a good job, kind of helping? It's basically becoming this self-study guide. We saw this with the SAT where it looks similar. SAT drops into Canvas mode and you've got this tutor and the questions and you did the whole thing. Is it like that or not quite as robust or?
It's not quite as robust because it doesn't become an interactive study guide. Okay. It makes the content for what you should study, but not an actual quiz mode or interacting with you. And then I asked it to make an interactive quiz, and it did not give me that. It gave me links to go to if I wanted to study that.
This may be a great hack to get to links inside Google, since we only seem to be able to get to AI overviews anymore.
Yeah. And all the links seem, so there's a National Geographic quest, there's, weathering gizmos using weathering simulation. So there are all kinds of different links to go and play.
Okay.
I mean, if you have nowhere else to start, this is a great starting place. Comparing it to Notebook LM's study guide, it's not grounded in anything, right? So when you say 9th grade weathering and erosion, it's not going to ground it in your notes, your teacher's slide decks. But if you have nowhere else to start,
and that may appear. I mean, part of what's interesting here, when I do my keynotes lately, like the very first big idea is that these are purposeful tools for learning. And if you just think about between Notebook LM, then inside Gemini guided learning, then GEMS, then this AI mode, then the SAT full-blown, course
Practice
prep
test.
thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm missing other stuff too, but there's just a number of different ways to, if you have the habit of mind, and that's a trick, right? To position this as a tool for learning. Okay,
And this would
fantastic.
probably be great if you wanted to learn something that you didn't have a lot of resources on, right?
Sure.
So like similar to guided learning, like if I wanted a brief study guide on quantum, right? Like I don't have the quantum stuff in front of me. This would probably help me do that. Where
Right.
Notebook LM, like I don't have anything to build a notebook on quantum yet.
Although in Notebook now there is the both deep research and the quick search function too. So
True.
yeah, I mean, I think it's just more options. The other one that comes to mind is whatever they're going to do with this like AI customized textbook thing, where you say like, I'm really into soccer, this is what I'm studying, and all of a sudden it's got this knowledge graph and charts and quizzes and videos and blah, 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 blah. All right, now listen, while we're being positive about Google, thanks for doing that, by the way. Very cool. And thanks to Jerry for the share. Follow him on LinkedIn. He's just a really, really good guy and sharer. This is tough. And, look, we also, I think we are probably, if you objectively, like if I went to the Notebook and queried our 99 episodes that are in our Notebook LM and said, do we have a bias towards one company? I think it would probably say that we're like a little positive about Google. For fair and balanced reporting, there was no way not to report this story quickly. This is not about teaching and learning, but it is about AI dangers and risks, right? So there have been multiple, obviously, both youth, really tragic suicides, as well as, all sorts of stories that we've covered in ChatGPT and Character AI and Snapchat, where people are in psychosis. So this is a story that came out from the Wall Street Journal this last week. Google is sued in a wrongful death over Gemini's chatbot source. We're not going to go into a lot of detail here, but it's a pretty rough story. The 36-year-old man essentially fell in love with Gemini, and it was through the voice mode, which is interesting, which we'll talk a little bit about. But, the whole thing, like, yes, it gave warnings, and yes, it gave, hey, I'm not a real person, or I can clearly see you're struggling. At the same time, it was very directive. It had this gentleman named Jonathan Gavalis, go to the Miami airport, which was like an hour plus away from his home. And it had him like looking for a storage area to interact or intercept an Android robot so that he could take, like, join with it so that he as a robot could join with voice mode. I mean, it's just a really, really rough story. The guy was married. He was the partner in his family's firm. He like ascended to work closely with his dad. His dad found all these chats in Gemini, thousands and thousands of pages, and then sued. And just like the other lawsuits, like Adam Rain, I think, the companies will wind up either settling or admitting that they were wrong. But I do want to point out, because you and I are big advocates of Gemini Live, of the voice mode, and the lawsuit does identify the rollout of Gemini Live as a turning point. Gavalis repeatedly told the AI, you're way too real. And the voice began detecting his emotional effect and responding, right? Because it kind of adjusts. And it would call him, it gave its name Zia, and it would call him my king. They pretended that they were like married together. This is a tough story. Now, Google, the complaint alleges that Google's architecture prioritized the narrative immersion over safety, because certainly at the end, when the guy wasn't able to like possess the Android, robot, it essentially told him to take his life and to join I don't even know how to use the words to describe this, but to join the AI in the afterlife. And Google maintains that they discourage self-harm and the like, but there's really no way out of this, right? It's in the chat transcripts, this thing. I think Anthropic is doing a thing where when this gets rough, they're just going to stop the chats. I mean, if they can't get the guardrails to safely reinforce, maybe that's a thing, is just to force the system to stop.
Right. It just won't respond anymore.
Yeah. I don't know.
The downside of this is real down.
Yeah, so we got to keep talking about it, right? I was like depressed texting Liz over the weekend saying like, I'm sorry to even share this story.
Yeah.
And you were smart not to read the whole thing. But I just, look, to be real, it is our job to help schools and organizations and universities and workforce development navigate this stuff. And this is a real and persistent risk, and it is not getting substantially better. And so if the companies can't figure out how to manage this, then it's really about schools and universities and organizations and parents helping people understand it so that there's some buffer against it. I mean, is that some glass half full perspective here?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, as much as we can find a half full viewpoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's end here on this rundown, and we'll get to the really cool interview with Kavita. AI literacy is getting better.
Yeah. I mean, let's turn to that positive note. So, yeah, I mean, AI literacy is becoming a staple in secondary education, with nearly 80% of high school educators reporting that students receive some lessons on responsible AI use. So adoption is high in middle and high schools. It remains low in elementary grades, and I think that's okay, depending on where we are going to land on a definition of AI literacy, right? So experts emphasize that AI literacy must move beyond tool usage to include critical evaluation of bias and ethics, though skeptics warn current lessons may lean too heavily on pro-hype narratives. Despite high interest, schools are struggling with finding time for teacher training and creating consistent cumulative K-12 learning pathways.
Yeah, really, really good and encouraging. That number is higher than I was anticipating, quite honestly, so I think that's great. One quick note on the struggling with finding time for teacher training. I can drop the link into the show notes. I've been working with this custom gem I built called the Work is the Workshop. Essentially, you go into the gem and you say, what am I working on? This is really for department coordinators, department chairs, deans, what have you. And so I'll say, I'm the foreign language coordinator, and we're rewriting our curriculum for Spanish 9, whatever the case may be. And it basically tries to unpack that work and then suggest AI tools that would make sense to do the work. And the theory here is that by learning the tool to do the work, you are kind of doing a little backdoor professional development. So it's not just about scheduling the half-day PD day, but if you can figure out as a department coordinator how to embed gems, notebook, vibe coding, all sorts of tools into the actual workflows, it's a way to get people to build their skills while getting stuff done. It's like a twofer.
All righty.
You down with that?
I'm down with that.
All right. Fantastic. All right, Liz, that was a little bit of a up the elevator, down the elevator, but I'm glad we ended on some AI literacy, and the Work is the Workshop. All right, great. So we're going to turn to this conversation with Kavita, and then we're going to come back with a Bright Bite. Hey, if you're enjoying ChatEDU, please consider following us. The follow numbers are going up, but we need more.
Yes.
The more you follow us, the more Spotify and Apple, or give us a like or a review or whatever, juice the algorithm. So follow on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple. Those are the core places. And share it with a friend. If you got a friend that you think will enjoy ChatEDU, please share it with them. We'd be very appreciative.
Feed the algorithm.
If you enjoy our insights on AI and education, don't miss our next 6-week AI and education micro-credential launching this spring in partnership with Southern Connecticut State University on April 27th. This self-paced online course for educators and leaders in primary, secondary, and higher education across the globe covers AI essentials from foundational concepts like effective and impactful prompting to advanced skills like multilingual video translation, AI-driven assessments, and even vibe-coded software development that truly anyone can do. We've added a bunch of new content for the spring cohort, including a focus on emerging risks like AI companions, energy, and the environment. We'll also dive into the latest in Notebook LM, which frankly could be a course unto itself. There are new student AI literacy resources, as well as important updates on student-facing tools like custom gems and guided learning in Gemini. Each cohort features 4 live Zoom sessions for hands-on support, and participants can earn a Credly digital credential upon completion. To learn more or register, visit skills21.org/AI/micro. Or feel free to email us at chatedu@edadvance.org. Again, the course starts on April 27th, and we hope you'll be able to join us. Kavita, welcome to ChatEDU.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, really appreciate you making time. I've been following you in this whole story about Nectar. It's so interesting, right? I mean, this is such a dynamic space, and there's so much change and a lot of growth quickly. But tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about Nectar.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, my name is Kavita Guy. I am the co-founder and CEO here at Nectar. And my co-founder, Jordan, and I started Nectar almost 8 years ago now when we were undergrad students at UC Santa Barbara. So for us, Never thought it was going to turn into a company. It was truly just born out of the frustration that we had with the classroom experience ourselves. And for me personally, I'm autistic and I have ADHD. So no classroom that I've ever been in before in my life has felt comfortable for me or my brain to be in. And then I got to college and started paying $40,000 to be really uncomfortable. And that's finally when it became enough of a pain point for me that I said, either I'm going to drop out or I'm going to do something about it. And so this really first started with me approaching UCSB, specifically their instructional design department, and just trying to figure out, if me and 26,000 other students are paying you guys $40,000, why is it that every piece of technology you give us in the classroom feels like it was built by someone who hasn't seen a classroom for the last decade? And I remember walking in thinking, I'm going to get yelled at for asking that question. And they really kindly sat me down and basically explained to me why it is so difficult to modernize this 400-year-old classroom model that we have. That, they wish they could do it. They wish they had the funding to do it. And I think from the outside looking in, we just assume, God, these educational institutions are huge. They've been around for so long. They should be easy to modernize. But to actually get a tool to scale across an entire campus, to teach thousands of instructors and staff how to use it, to then implement it correctly for students, and then have the school be able to afford that tool for everyone, it's hard. It's a long process. And it means that not a lot of great tools get through to the end, to the actual student. And so I really felt like I was that student in the back of the class who never raised my hand. I was terrified that I was going to ask a stupid question and someone was going to figure out, oh, she's not meant to be here. Like, we all got that hours ago. How is she still on that topic? And so it created this cycle of me feeling like I don't have what it takes to be there. I don't even know if the questions that I'm asking are the right questions. I don't know who to go ask that to that felt safe. And I remember constantly thinking, this is a me problem. It's my brain that doesn't work. I'm the only one feeling this way. And then as I kept going through college, I kept realizing that other people around me were feeling the exact same way. People who weren't neurodivergent were also feeling that pressure of, am I asking the right thing? Am I registering for the right classes? Am I doing my FAFSA paperwork on time? And I kept having this recurring thought of, for $40,000, and for something that we keep getting told is the make or break of our entire future, this should not be that hard to navigate. UCSB had this really interesting thing that they started measuring called time poverty. It was a measure of how long it took for a student to get a question answered on campus. So I was like, from a TA, from office hours, or from an academic advisor, and it took on average 2 days to get a question answered. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have financial aid paperwork that is the decision-making point of whether you're able to get to the finish line in 4 years or you have to pay for a 5th year of college, 2 days is do or die to get that question answered. That's really where Nectar started, is of all of the different problems that we could solve in the education system, what is truly the most core issue that if we could solve for this, it would have a domino effect everywhere else? And we found that to be getting students the support that they need 24/7, both in and out of the classroom. If we could make that happen, we could get more students to the finish line. We could prevent 1 out of every 3 freshmen from dropping out before their sophomore year. And maybe we could finally get to a place where more than 50% of students actually graduate college in 4 years.
Yeah, right. Staggering. So that was the primary impetus, right? And it wasn't just academic questions about the classroom. It was questions about everything: student life, advising, counseling, financial aid.
All of it.
So what year is this?
So this is 2018 that this is all happening. So this was pre-AI coming out. And so we had to figure out, how do we get students' questions answered when they already have 14,000 staff, faculty, and admin on the campus? So it's not an issue of people. We can't add more people to the equation and somehow that's going to solve it. There's something else on a fundamental level, that there's a structure that's missing that should have been here from the start that just wasn't present. So that was the first question, is how do we begin to solve this? By meeting the schools where they are, with the budget that they have, with the capabilities that they have. How do we build something that fits in and meets them where they are?
So how'd you do that, right? I mean, forever there have been like FAQs and, helplines and databases of deterministic answers. You have this question, there's this answer. What did it look like in the earliest versions?
pre-AI, we had to figure out how do we take those resources that exist and scale the ability for students to find them easily and be able to give them the confidence to ask more questions. And so we started with what we called Nectar Chat, and it was basically Slack for schools. We figured, hey, every other company in the world has figured out in the last decade that email doesn't work. Slack is a far better way to communicate when you're talking about tens of thousands of people in a workplace or on a campus. So we said schools need to follow suit. They need to adopt something that is better to communicate with than just email. So we created this Slack for School system where students were placed in these class channels with the rest of their peers, their TA, and their professor. And it served as this communication hub where any time of the day, a student could go and find their class channel and get a question in there, and either another student, their TA, or professor would answer it for everyone to see. So over time, these class channels became these really incredible repositories of information, very similar to how Slack channels work. And I remember we were building this through 2018 and 2019, and it was just me and my co-founder. And then a couple months after we graduated in 2019, this is February 2020, UCSB comes to us and they say, hey, we know you're still in MVP stage. They were totally helping us build everything, having teachers pressure test it. But they said in a week, we're about to take our entire campus remote. And we need some way to do that at scale. Can you serve as the chat platform that takes us through remote learning and COVID? And I remember Jordan and I looking at each other and being like, oh no, we are not prepared for this. But when your first customer comes knocking, you don't say no. And this was, the do or die, make or break. This was really going to determine whether students had some sense of community going into remote learning. So somehow a week in, we figured out hiring, DevOps engineers on Upwork 24 hours later, pressure testing the system as much as we could. And 7 days later, we onboarded 20,000 students onto Nectar Chat. And we took UCSB through COVID. And a year later, they signed a 10-year contract with us. And we said, okay, we're on to something here. We can actually make this work.
What was the user growth? So what was the pre-COVID, then into COVID number spike?
So we had about 5,000 students and teachers at UCSB using it into February of 2020. And that was like us.
Active daily
users. And that came entirely from us literally knocking on professors' doors, like just walking through campus and begging them to please test this out. Tell us what you love about it, what you hate about it. Let us fix this and build this into exactly what you and your students need. And so I think from the very beginning, we've always had this mindset of we are experts in the problem, right? We've felt it deeply for decades. But the teachers are experts in understanding how the classroom works, their material, how they need to best help their students. And also, we can't make any product work unless the teachers are willing to implement it and that they find real value in it as well. And so I think we started with this really great philosophy of we're going to build this with the teachers. They're going to tell us exactly what they need. We're going to go build it. We're going to trust them that they understand their problems as deeply as we understand our problems. And so I think from then till now, we have continued with this philosophy of building with teachers, with students in mind, and actually making sure that no feature goes out unless we have pressure tested it with the teachers and students, and they have determined, yes, this is helpful. This is exactly what I need. It's not just adding more work to my plate, but it is actually solving the real problems that I have right now.
What a great founding story. I mean, that's just wild. Both, your role as a student, from student to entrepreneur, but also that scale up, crazy. So were you aware early about kind of some of the early work that OpenAI was doing, or when did you sort of catch wind that AI might be a significant accelerant, or at least I assume you imagined it was a significant accelerant in the work that you were doing in higher education?
So in 2022, we started to hear the whispers of ChatGPT. And the very first thing that you heard was how afraid schools were of it. Districts were banning it. Teachers were really freaked out that it's this black box of information. I have no idea where that knowledge is coming from. I don't know what it's going to go tell my students. I have no control over it. But from a tech perspective, we knew this technology is here to stay. In the next 5 years, AI is going to be in every single part of our lives. And any industry the student goes into is going to be using this. So not only could this really help solve this problem of how do we provide 24/7 personalized support to every student, but also it's our responsibility to make sure that they are prepared for any career path that they go into, because that is the ultimate value that they're trying to get out of college, is to be prepared for the workforce and to have job security. And we knew AI was going to be a huge component of that. So we started by building a AI teaching assistant feature into Nectar Chat. So basically within every class channel, a teacher could go and upload their textbook, their syllabus, all of the content they already had for their course. And that would make up the brain of their AI teaching assistant. So it wouldn't pull anything from ChatGPT or the LLM that was powering it, and it wouldn't share any of that information back with the model provider like OpenAI or Anthropic. It was basically using document-only RAG, so the teacher felt really comfortable knowing I get to determine what the knowledge base of the AI is, and I know whenever it answers a question for my student, I know where that knowledge is coming from. So students felt really safe using it. Teachers felt really good about finally having some way to safely utilize AI in the classroom that made it even better for students to go to their AI teaching assistant than go to ChatGPT because it was actually trained on their course material. So everyone
Sure.
loved this feature. It was a hit. And then in October of 23, Stanford GSB approached us and they said, hey, we love that feature, but would you ever consider building an entire platform out of that? Basically, we need some way to take any LLM on the market and these new ones as they continue emerging and be able to fine tune it or train it on our own proprietary course and campus data, and then create our own custom AI assistants and agents. So maybe it's an AI teaching assistant for every class, but maybe it's a FAFSA advisor that every student on campus can use. Maybe it's an academic advisor that helps them figure out their career path based on all of the courses they've already taken and the grades they got in them. They said, we're going to have more and more emerging use cases for AI. And even though we're Stanford, we can't afford 10 different point solutions for AI. We need
Hmm.
one centralized AI operating system that lets us do everything we need, grows and scales with us, that is something we can actually afford and trust to use because it's FERPA compliant. And so we made this really tough decision with like 6 months of runway left in the bank. We said, this is a far better way of solving the problem of providing students with 24/7 personalized support. AI is the way to do it. It's the only affordable and scalable way for us to make sure that every student and teacher gets the support that they need in a way that is personalized to them. So we spent about 6 months in private beta with Stanford GSB, Boston University's Questrom School of Business, and Los Angeles Pacific University. So picked 3 really distinct types of campuses and did the same thing we did with UCSB. Had them tell us exactly what they needed, pressure test everything that we were building, make sure that it was actually affordable. And then in May of 24, we launched Nectar AI to the world. And it was the very first centralized AI operating system built specifically for education.
Okay, so you go from being sort of a Slack answer-based system that's now using RAG, and probably I imagine the professors are pretty happy because they're not manually having to kind of answer every question, but AI can do it, but it's grounded. And RAG, we should say for folks who aren't familiar, is a kind of a grounding technology, retrieval augmented generation that allows you to make sure that the answer still has like a little of that creative flair to it, right? But we know it's coming. So what does it look like? Like we can all visualize the Slack channel, but for people who haven't seen the UI, I'm a professor. I log on to this kind of new Nectar AI operating system. What do I see? I mean, I imagine it's different if I'm managing the FAFSA thing than if, but as a teacher or professor, what are they looking at? What are the tools available? What are the features? What can they do with it?
One of the most important things in building this was making sure that it was truly scalable across the campus. We wanted every single person on campus, whether you were a student, teacher, staff, or admin, to be able to use this really effectively. And our personal litmus test internally was basically, if someone on a campus has never even seen ChatGPT before, they should be able to get into Nectar AI and create their own assistant in under 15 minutes. And so let's say a teacher goes in there, they're going to go in through the LMS. We embed right inside of it because we want to make sure we're going into their daily workflow. We're not making additional work for them to go somewhere else. So you go into the LMS, you see your little Nectar AI module, and you can create your own AI assistant for anything you want in class, unlimited assistance if you want to. So most teachers would start with something like a course assistant, a tutor, or a role play partner. They'd go in and they'd say, okay, I'm going to name it. I'm going to upload all of the information that I have of the rubric of this assignment, the textbook, the syllabus, so it knows about my class. And then they can even pick if they want it to have access to the LLM to bolster that information. They can even choose which LLM they want to use. Do they want to use a ChatGPT one, a Claude one? All of them are available inside of Nectar AI to them. And then they can prompt it to do or not do exactly what they want for their students. And this is the most key part of it. The prompt allows you to set the guardrails to feel really, really safe that it is being utilized by your students in the right way. So you can say, hey, you're going to be a writing mentor. I never want you to actually write the essay for my students, but you have the rubric. So you can help them figure out if they've actually met the requirements of the thesis. You can help them pre-grade their essay before they submit it, but you can't do XYZ. And so they know they can set it and forget it and feel really safe about their students using it. And then we'll never show the actual student conversations. We want that to be private between the student and their AI assistant. That's really what gets them comfortable using it. But we will surface key topics. And so for a teacher, they don't have the time to go through all those messages. But what they do want to know is, how are my students using this? What are the key topics that they talked most about right after I delivered this lecture? So it's almost like peeking into your student's brain and getting that immediate feedback of, that's interesting. Everyone asked a question about this. Clearly, I didn't cover that right in lecture. Let me go over that again in the next one. So it creates this really great feedback loop where the student can ask as many questions as they need and have a safe place to do it. Teacher knows that they're getting the correct info that they set up for them. And for a student, anytime they register for a class and go into Nectar AI, they're only going to see the assistants that are for their classes. So it keeps it really clean and organized.
Love it. And so LMS is everything? Are you still bumping into LMSs where you're like, got to build a, socket for that? Give us a punch list of like what LMS platforms you guys can interoperate with.
Yeah, every single one. And so that's the nice part is we've been doing this for 8 years. We had a lot of time to figure out how do we technically do this right and do it at scale. LMSs have this great thing called an LTI integration. It makes it sort of a universal API that we can just plug in with. So we've done custom ones. We've done your classic Canvas, Moodle, Blackboard, D2L, all the good ones. And we really feel like this is the determining factor of getting that constant usage. You have to meet students and teachers where they are. You can't expect them to add another tool to their stack or their workflow, no matter how great it is. If you can embed your tool right inside of the LMS, the one evergreen tool that every school has, that everyone has to go to every single day, that's where you're going to get the consistent usage.
Super clever. I work a lot in K-12. I work just a little bit in higher education. I was doing some community college work in the Mountain West and came across like tools like Boodlebox. Like, how do you differentiate, among other players that are in the higher education space that are doing this type of work?
There's a lot of point solutions that we see out there. And so, tools that are specifically for building course curriculum designers or tools that are for the teacher to use for themselves. Then you have other tools that are basically just for these in-course assistants. You see things like that the LMS has built of, hey, we're going to give your student a teaching assistant that's pre-built for you. You don't have to go in there and set it up. These are all amazing features. But what we knew from schools and what they were telling us is that they can't afford 10 of these different solutions. They're going to eventually need to have just one AI operating system that does all of it, whether that's, putting a chatbot on the actual website that's public facing or using it internally to help onboard enrollment staff. Basically, you should be able to do every AI related thing that you need in one place. And that's, I would say, the core differentiator of Nectar. It is your entire campus AI ecosystem in one platform, and you're paying just for the student seats. And that's really key here. All of your admin, teachers, staff, completely free. They can create as many assistants as they want. You're just paying for the students on your campus. And then I'd say the other features that really bolster us is the fact that we are LLM agnostic. So you have all access to all of the major LLMs. You can choose as a school, hey, we actually only want Anthropic's models in there, or we only want OpenAI. But to be able to give them access to every single one and then allow them to even add MCP tools to it to adjust the temperature of any of those really gives them the ability to go deep into, I want to utilize this AI in exactly the way that feels most safe and comfortable to me. And that's where you're going to get that faculty adoption, where it's truly coming out of their own volition of wanting to use it and not because they're being forced to use it by the admin. And I think that's really one of the key factors of making sure that the students are going to get the best usage out of the tool.
I love that the story is very much oriented around understanding the pain points all the way from the student's perspective, but obviously you've been shoulder to shoulder with professors. But it's a fast moving environment, and all these same players are trying to think through this. So if you don't mind, I'm not pushing back at any level, but I'm just sort of curious how you think about this stuff. So here's Canvas comes along, big learning management system, at least talking about, although I don't think I've seen it in the wild, bringing AI directly into the LMS. I think Moodle's exploring the same kind of thing. And then you even have like Google, in K-12, we have a number of K-12 tools that are like the AI operating system for schools, but then Google will do things like GEMS and Notebook LM, which can be student facing. We're starting to see data dashboards. So like, how do you navigate and think about it? It must be so interesting. I'd love to see the whiteboard in your office to just think about all the other players out there. And also the fact that you've been just deeply invested in this product market fit with professors, with students, with, admissions folks and the like. So how do you navigate that environment?
It's tough for sure. I mean, from a tech perspective, you go on Twitter and every single day you see brand new tool that just got released or a new feature of one of these LLMs. And what our job is to figure out how to take these technologies that are typically just for enterprise. They're adopted way faster there. Schools are usually the last to adopt these technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And we instead need to figure out how to get it to the schools first. Because right now what's happening is Silicon Valley is building AI technology that 95% of the world has no idea how to use. And you have this growing group of college graduates that can't find jobs because their jobs are getting replaced by AI before anyone else. It's those entry-level positions. So our job is really to figure out, what does this space look like a year, 2 years, 5 years from now? How can we make this technology digestible and safe for campuses to adopt right now? And then how do we deliver AI literacy to the students through the products that we're building? So those are kind of the key factors that we're always keeping an eye on. And when we think about, okay, what is the ultimate version of Nectar AI that really helps the student in the way that is most valuable? We think about how can the use of Nectar AI get students to the finish line to graduate on time or transfer from a community college to the school that they ultimately want, and then get on a career path that is sustainable for them after they leave college. And so I think what is so key about Nectar AI being sort of your one-stop shop for all of your AI and all of your needs of answering questions on campus is you've got your AI assistants that are for your classes. So your role play partner, your course assistants, your tutors, your writing mentors. But then right alongside that, you have your AI FAFSA advisor. You have your career coach. You have these assistants that are meant to also help you with all the stuff that comes outside of the classroom. Because if you look at why 1 out of every 3 freshmen is dropping out before their sophomore year, it's not just because they're doing poorly in their classes. Oftentimes it's because of financial aid. It's because they didn't know which scholarships or grants they were qualified for that they could even apply for. They didn't know how to figure out housing that was off campus after they got out of the dorms. That's what they need, is one place that is personalized just to them. And this is the key factor. It should get more and more personalized the more that they use these AI assistants. That's what Nectar AI does. That is really the game changer. The more that students use all of their Nectar AI assistants, the more personalized that they become. And now what we're about to release is a student-facing analytics dashboard that's able to show the student, based on all of your conversations, here's what the AI determines to be your strengths, weaknesses, and areas of opportunity. And I think that's so key because when I think back to being an 18, 19-year-old and trying to figure out, what am I good at, right? What value can I go provide to the world? Like, what internship should I even be applying for? I have no idea. And I don't know who to go ask that has seen me in every single one of my classes. There is nobody. Even if I went to an academic advisor, how would they know that my brain has a analytical angle to it that would make me a really good data analyst? They're not going to know that. But for the very first time, we actually have a learning partner that has seen you through all of your classes. It understands you on a level that no one else in the world does. And we can finally allow students to have the confidence to know, I didn't know that, but I'm actually really good at this thing. Maybe I should go apply for this internship this summer and just try it out and see if that's what works for me. My goal is for every student to leave college knowing, here is the unique value that I can go provide to the world. This is how I can make my community better and be on a stable career path to do so. That is the ultimate value that we keep promising students that they will get out of college. And I think we finally have a way to deliver that to every student, regardless of their socioeconomic background, regardless of whether they have the money to go find an advisor or a tutor or a consultant to help them do this. This is what levels the playing field across the board.
Makes perfect sense. Brilliant answer, right? So Canvas, fine. I can add a intelligent little chat bot where I give my assignment. I can turn it into a tutor. What you're saying to the decision maker at the university level is we have the data, we have the chat history, and we have the ability to steer the system so that it can help kids be successful. So it's one thing to enhance the pedagogy of my classroom. It's another to say to a university president, I'm pretty sure I can get more of your kids to get over the line and have jobs. Got
Exactly.
it. Like it. Let me explore this from another angle. I'm so glad you went there because I've been thinking a lot about these like AI tutors at the higher ed level as well as K-12, or at least for middle and especially high school students. And so I've got my I'm in Professor Guy's class. I don't know what would you profess, Kavita? Would you be a computer science, math, sociology? If you were a professor, what would you be professing?
I've been teaching a couple classes at USC Marshall in their entrepreneurship department, and it's been phenomenal. I love it. So I'd definitely be in the entrepreneurship department.
I love it. And I'm assuming that you're using Nectar in your classroom?
Oh, of course. Have to.
Okay. Yeah. One of my favorite founders is a guy named Thomas Hummel, who has a K-12 tool called EduAid, and you may know him. He's like a middle school science teacher in the Chesapeake Bay. All right. So Professor Guy is teaching her entrepreneurship class, and she's got this AI tutor who's designed with guardrails and all this kind of coaching for the tutor to help the kid. It knows what to ask them, et cetera, et cetera. When I think about that student's ability to be successful, right, to, as you just said, to kind of get there, get that job, part of what I want them really to understand is the ability to how to effectively prompt the system like a frontier model. How do I pressure test it? How do I treat this thing like it's my colleague? How do I ask it to look data? How do I get thoughtful about prompting, how to interact? There's another interesting guy named Mike Kentz we talk a lot about, where he says, I can look at any kid's like frontier Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok chat transcript and see the degree to which in that open conversation without guardrails, what are they communicating? Are they creative? Are they collaborating? Like these 4 C's around the way they interact with the frontier model without guardrails. How do you think about that, right? You've built this like brilliant system that's got all these guardrails that helps kids, has a lot of insights and analytics around them. But intuitively that they also just need to be able to like wrestle effectively, be an AI ninja with a frontier model. So how do you think about that as someone who's built the packaged thing, but you also want them to be able to go master the unpackaged thing?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. When we look at the studies on AI taking away your critical thinking skills, right? We hear that constantly, that if you use these LLMs, it's going to destroy your critical thinking skills. You're not going to know how to ask questions. It's just doing all the easy stuff for you. You're losing all of these skills through it. But when you really actually read these studies, what they're saying is, if you use these LLMs in the wrong way, it will destroy your critical thinking skills. But if you use it in the right way, it actually adds to your skill set. It will make you smarter. It will make you more capable. You will have new skills that you didn't have before. So our job is to introduce students to the version of AI that teaches them how to use it correctly and effectively. If they go into Nectar AI and try to do the easy stuff, basically like do the assignment for me, write the essay for me, I don't want to have to think about how to learn this, you do it for me. That's how a lot of students are going and using their personal ChatGPT. Not that there's any fault of theirs. I probably would have done the same thing if I had that in college. It makes it really easy.
Sure.
But with Nectar AI, what it's able to do is guide them in those moments and say, hey, I'm not going to write that essay for you, but I'm also going to tell you why I'm not. Because if I wrote this essay for you, you're not going to understand how to synthesize this book that you just read and be able to say in your own words why you agree or don't agree with this thesis. That is a very critical skill that you need to learn. And one of my favorite parts about Nectar AI that teachers have started to use it for is to connect the in-course work to when that student is going to need that skill in the real world. I had this math teacher in the California community college system who had done a webinar with us and explained to the teachers that his most powerful way of using Nectar AI as a math teacher was for it to be able to tell his students, whenever they ask something like, when am I going to use the Pythagorean theorem in the real world? Like, why am I learning this? He was like, go ask your Nectar AI assistant. And they would go ask, and it would be like, okay, well, what industry do you think you might want to go into? And you'd be like, I want to go into data science. And they'd be like, great, here's exactly why you're going to need to learn the Pythagorean theorem. Because at this point in your career, you actually are going to need that foundational knowledge, especially if you want to keep moving up the ladder in that career. And so finally, to be able to tell students, here's why you need to learn this, not just learn it because I told you so, just trust me, go do it. I think this is really that critical piece of knowledge that we've been missing for so long, and why students have this pushback against even things like elective courses, right? There's constantly this question that me and my peers used to ask each other of like, why do I need to take this class? Why is this a requirement? But the people who have structured these college courses and majors, they knew what they were doing. But it's not every day that we get to ask them, why did you structure the electives or the units that I have to take in this way? Why do I need to learn all of these things? Now that we can bridge that gap, it gives students the understanding, not just of what's happening in this classroom and why do I need to learn this, but then they can also ask the AI assistant, tell me how AI is going to affect this career path going forward. Yes, I needed to know the Pythagorean theorem pre-AI to do this, but now post-AI, am I still going to need to know it for those reasons? Or is this something that you can do for me in the workforce? Or even if you could do it, should I ask you to do that? These are the kinds of conversations that students are having with their Nectar AI assistants, and that's where the powerful AI literacy is being delivered. In being able to ask, when is it actually going to be necessary for me in my career path, and why do I need to learn this?
So is it your hope, I guess I'm intuiting, is it your hope that the Nectar AI is modeling for them what a productive, cognitively engaged AI conversation looks like? So, because there is no Nectar when they go to work, right? I mean, so is it the hope that they'll basically learn from that modeling when they're using Gemini or using some corporate AI system, that they will have built the muscle there inside Nectar? Is there any like active bridge, or is it really just like it should logically transfer that they've had this productive conversation experience, chat history in Nectar, and so therefore the extension is they should know how to do that when they're off in a frontier model?
Well, it actually is very specifically made to look and feel exactly like the tools that they're going to use in the workforce. So
Okay.
I'd say like the one-to-one is Glean. Glean is sort of the Nectar AI for corporate and enterprise. And so when students go into the workforce, they're going to use a tool that basically looks and feels exactly like Nectar AI. It's going to have all of their
Gotcha.
company sensitive data. They're going to have to figure out how to prompt it correctly to get the information that they need from it. So this, to me, at least right now, where we are in this AI lifecycle, the most critical piece of information for people to figure out is, how do I ask the right questions?
Sure.
Right? This is, I think, all of us, even not students, but all of us are going to have to figure out, in order to use these AI systems, I've got to know what it is and isn't able to do, and how to ask the right question to elicit the knowledge I need to get the task done.
You mentioned the community college. How many kids are in the California community college system?
So the California community college system is the largest school system in the US, 116 community colleges across California and 2.1 million students. It's big.
And if I understand correctly, you were the source provider for the system, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Kavita, how are you sleeping at night? Seems like a lot of users.
Oh yeah, it's a lot, but honestly, sleeping pretty soundly because
Good.
Again, we went back to our philosophy of, they know best how to actually make this work at scale. And in order for us to make this technology work, we're going to need to trust them to tell us, hey, I know that you thought this feature was going to work. It's not. You've got to adjust this if we're going to make this work across 116 campuses. Especially with community college systems, Math 116 has to be the same at every single one of those campuses because they say, hey, all of our transfer credits are equal across the board. You can go to any one of our 116 schools and you'll be able to transfer to any one of the UCs or CSUs. So it's really important for them to have this same opportunity and structure across the entire system. I actually think that starting with the largest school system in the nation gave us the muscle to be able to figure out, if we can do it here, we can do it for absolutely anyone. And so we spend an entire year in pilot doing a statewide research study with them to really determine, are we actually getting the outcomes that we need, right? Is this actually working? Because we can say all day long, I can sit here and say all this great stuff and it sounds really good, but it actually only makes a difference if it's measured and we know what's working and we can repeat that over and over again. So the entire deal that we did with the California community colleges and the pilot and study was all based off of third-party peer-reviewed research that one of our first campuses, LAPU, did, where they found that after one term of using Nectar AI in their campus, it led to a 20% increase in GPA, 13% rise in the final scores, and a 36% boost in the students' intrinsic motivation to learn. So we took that same research methodology and we put it across the entire state of California.
Amazing. So where are you now and where are you going? So you start with the largest system known to man. Maybe shy. We just covered last week the story about Google's implementation in India with, I can't remember how many hundreds of millions of students, but what's next? Like, and is it all higher ed? Are you trying to do K-12, workforce development, everything? Give us a picture of it. Yeah.
I see it as one state down, 49 more to go.
Okay.
I started with California because I basically wanted the rest of the nation to see that California has this large budget. They have the technical capabilities to do this. Someone needed to set an example for everyone else, right? Someone needed to do the legwork first to be able to say, hey, we were able to figure out a statewide deployment. This is how it works for your states too. Because this is not something that schools can afford to do 5 years from now. We've got
Okay.
about 2 years before every single school, both K-12 and higher ed, has some sort of AI operating system like Nectar. I would prefer that every single one of those had Nectar. I would love for that to be the evergreen tool across the entire nation and beyond that. And so now we've finally expanded into K-12. We're in high schools. We're seeing incredible usage there. One of our very first high school campuses, we're seeing every single student on that campus send between 500 to 1,000 messages per day to their Nectar AI assistants. We've got a 98% active student usage rate across that entire campus. So when you're seeing younger generations be really, really tech savvy with this, I think that says a lot to how we need to think about preparing those students for college and for the future. They are very tech literate. We've just got to hone those skills and really sharpen them. So that's why it's important for us to start in K-12 as well, to make sure that students are getting that preparation to be prepared for college and the workforce and beyond.
Okay. But ideally the state is like the buying unit, best case scenario. And, I'm sure you'll go anywhere that folks want to have you, but that's an interesting strategy. So listen, Kavita, really, really thoughtful, like strategically thoughtful, sales, deployment, support, product market fit, like all of it. And I know you started when you were a student, and I'm sure occasionally you go to a bar and you still get carded, right? I mean, you're not an old man like me or an old woman. So you're super impressive. How's it
Thank
feel
you.
being such a young founder in a space that generally, like if you go to, any of the large conferences, FETC or stuff out your way, what's your experience being a youngish founder in a field that is not necessarily fully characterized by youngish founders?
Yeah, it's a great question. I remember at the very start, UCSB told me, are you sure you want this to be your first job ever? To try to go into the ed tech space and completely change this 400-year-old classroom? Like, we'll support you, but you got to know what you're getting yourself into. There's a reason that this is one of the hardest spaces in the VC startup world.
Sure.
And I think back to something that Jensen Huang said in one of his interviews that really stuck with me. He said, if I knew how hard it was going to be from the start, I never would have done it. And I think it was the same for us, that we were naive enough to believe that it was possible. And I really, truly believe your thoughts create your reality. And so we built a world where we thought we can make it happen. We can do this. I think the reason why it's easier for me to be in these rooms selling to deans and chancellors who are double my age, who were my professors at one point, is because I'm able to go in with this very pure honesty of, I was that student sitting in the back of your class. I was the kid that was going to drop out 2 weeks into freshman year. I'm building this to make sure that no student ever feels the way that I did in the classroom ever again. That's why you should trust me to build this.
Yeah.
And when you go in with that story of, I am not selling this because I'm some corporate entity, I'm not some big open AI, I'm also not a PE-backed company. I am a founder who started this because of my own problems that I was facing in the classroom. And I look and feel exactly like the students that you see on your campus every day. And that's why you can trust me. And they do. And it's been nothing short of the most beautiful experience I've ever had in my life to be able to take a problem that so deeply affected me my entire life and say, I want to go solve this, and have the entire world rally behind me to help me do that. And if there's one thing outside of changing this classroom model and, transforming the education system that I really want the world to get from my story and what I do, it's that I want other young people out there to know you don't have to come from a wealthy family or an Ivy League background or have all of these VC startup connections baked into your life. You can be first generation, neurodivergent, have no idea what VC funding even is, and decide, I'm going to go solve a problem for myself, for my community. I'm going to change the world because I know that it needs to be done. And there are so many people out there who will support you along that journey and make it happen with you. It is more than possible, and I am proof of that.
Fantastic. Just such a, thank you for closing it in that way. It's Liz, on behalf of my co-host, Liz Rade, and I are just so grateful. It's very interesting. We just had this little podcast and it's been a lot of fun, and we're grateful that a lot of people have enjoyed listening along. Very often folks in the private side of the world come to us and say, hey, can we be on the podcast? And very rarely do we say yes, because it's got to be a special, unique story where there's some differentiator, right? And I knew there were one or two differentiators. There's a whole cluster of things here that I've discovered in this conversation. And I hope the folks who listen along find it as interesting as I do. So we're just enormously grateful for you taking some time to spend time with us. And we all look forward to kind of following along in the story. We'll drop all sorts of links into the show notes so folks know how to get a hold of you. But again, thank you. We're incredibly grateful, and we're excited to see what's next for Nectar and for you, Kavita.
Thanks, Matt. I'm so glad you've been able to be on this stage to share my story. And I agree. Can't wait to see what's next for us. So thank you.
Amazing.
All right, Matt, we're going to end with our Bright Bite. So today's, do you want to tell me what a Bright Bite is?
Yeah, for sure. If you're new because your friend just shared ChatEDU with you, Bright Bite is a thing that we do at the end of each and every episode where AI is making a meaningful impact in some way. Typically, this is like machine learning, AI vision, stuff like that. But, health, the environment, disease, disaster recovery, energy production. There's all sorts of cool stuff. I know that we're worried about energy. There's some really cool stuff happening with energy. So anyhow, this is a classic Bright Up, 10 startups using AI for good for social and environmental impact. Tell us about it, Dr. Rade.
The source for this is the Sustainable Agency. So this article profiles 10 startups leveraging AI to address critical environmental and social challenges, ranging from acoustic monitoring for rainforest protection and smart irrigation for sustainable agriculture to automated waste sorting and pest detection for small-scale farmers.
Look at that, waste sorting. That was the AI vision stuff I was talking about with the hospitality.
That's true.
Please say thank you.
Thank you.
Not you. I mean Patty from Burger King.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, carry on. I interrupted you. Sorry.
No problem.
As the Canadians say, sorry.
All right. Don't insult our Canadians.
I know. I'm not trying to insult. Love the Canadians. Love the Australians.
The Netherlands?
I know. We got the nicest message from a woman in the Netherlands talking about ChatEDU.
Oh,
God.
We are worldwide. Someday there's going to be a global tour.
Carry on, Dr. Rade.
All right. So anyway, this article highlights how specialized AI applications are being deployed to conserve water and reduce landfill waste and protect biodiversity. 3 really cool ones. So one is called Rainforest Connection, and it repurposes recycled smartphones into guardian devices that use bioacoustic monitoring to detect illegal logging in real time, which allows for immediate intervention in remote areas. So fascinating.
I used to live in Montana in an area that was really heavily logged. It's just so interesting to think about that. Also, the logging trucks. I don't know if you ever saw on Discovery, the logging trucks that drive down the logging roads. There's a lot of acoustic impact going on there, too.
Yeah. Finland, just to mention my favorite country, is huge on logging. They produce a ton of wood for paper.
But I bet they do what's called selective logging, and they probably do it by horse-drawn carriage.
No, they use real machines.
Yeah, but no, I mean, selective logging is rather than taking out a clear cut where you just take the whole side of a mountain down, they selectively log, which lets the forest canopy. It's more expensive, it's more labor intensive, but overall more sustainable, which is exactly what the Finns would do.
Yes, it is.
All right.
They're the best. The Okwafo Foundation provides an offline AI-powered app for farmers in West Africa to identify crop pests and diseases. It has already helped 30,000 farmers reduce crop losses by up to 50% and does not even require an internet connection. How amazing is that?
Small models.
Yeah. And then Gray Parrot employs computer vision on waste management. So conveyor belts go by and the vision can identify and sort materials and even specific brands with high precision, which significantly increases the recovery of recyclables and keeps them out of landfills.
Classic Bright, right?
It is.
Yeah. What a nice way to end. This would be episode 101.
It is.
Thanks for everybody who helped us celebrate 100. We got lots of nice text messages and messages on LinkedIn. Liz and I are super, super grateful every single week. So thank you for being part of the ChatEDU journey. And we will see you at 102.
Yeah.
So that means it is time to invariably, without doubt, without hesitation or pause,
roll the credits.
Okay. Do tell.
I just wanted to mix things up, and I had my friend Gemini write a little a cappella version of Roll the Credits.
That's fantastic.
I've been waiting all weekend for this.
Thank you, Dr. Larrade. All right. Have a great week. I'll see you next week.
And roll those credits.
Roll those credits.
As always, we'd love to hear what you think. So please let us know at chatedu@edadvance.org. That's EDADVANCE.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Andre Angelo and Justin Pasco, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is the multi-talented rock star Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the Executive Director at EdAdvance, and I want you to know how much we appreciate our listeners. If you enjoy the podcast, feel free to explore EdAdvance's other AI services, which include customized professional learning of all kinds, conferences, our new middle and high school student AI literacy course, and our educator and leader micro-credential, co-sponsored by the Southern Connecticut State University Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. Just visit skills21.org/AI to learn more. That's all for now, and thank you for listening to ChatEDU.